Welcome to the show, man. It's been a while since we spoke.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
We are excited. I guess we're going to talk a lot about, direct mail and just trying to find off-market leads. Before doing that, though, we first met because you raised your hand when we were doing the investor stories. This is
Mhm.
going back a couple years ago when the podcast was getting off the ground, and you had one of the craziest stories. And it's just worth all the hassles for the people out there who are dealing with an eviction or dealing with whatever. Go look at those investor stories. It's about struggles that years later people laugh about. It's a long story, so you don't need to give us but can you give us the Cliff Notes version, the teaser of
Yeah,
just that experience?
yeah. So I got into real estate a few years ago, about 4 years ago, and I was investing in Chicago. I had sold a company, a fintech company, in my early 30s, and so I was looking for something to do. I met a guy at the gym that helped me get into real estate investing. He turned out to not be such a great guy, but that's a story for another time. But we bought a 4 unit in Pilsen together, and he just kind of disappeared. He was supposed to manage the project and was supposed to run the whole deal, almost like the GP, and I was almost like the LP. But he disappeared, and I had my money and another guy's money in it, and I wasn't gonna let us lose money. And so when I went to show the property to a realtor after I reached out to a few realtors to see if they were interested and off-market buyers, uh, I knocked on or I opened the door with the key and it was full of squatters. So there's all 4 units were filled with squatters. The top unit was filled first, I guess, and she turned herself into the landlord of the place, and they were paying her rent, and they were all
Genius, by the way.
yeah.
Don't even live for free. Let's make money
Right,
off it.
right. And this was a dilapidated place. The whole strategy was going to be we were just trying to upzone it, and we were going to sell it, and so it was just going to be torn down because it was absolutely dilapidated. Dilapidated. No one should be living there. And so I had to do cash for keys. Long story short, like they were not the greatest people, but I was able to get 4 units out. They kept breaking back in, so I had to get the dogs, like metal for the doors and windows and stuff, so they wouldn't break in anymore. But I had to pay them 12 and a half grand to get out. And the only way I protected myself when I went there, when I tried to get them out, was I tried to call the cops. They wouldn't do anything because it, looked like they lived there for a little bit. I just had a hammer in my pocket just in case anything happened. Like that would do anything. But anyways, I was able to sell it and only lost 10 grand. So that was a win for me.
How much did you plan on making though? That's the true loss. The 10
Yeah,
grand
I
plus
mean,
that.
the guy that I was doing it with, his numbers were never accurate, I found. I mean, it was supposed to be a couple hundred grand.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it sucked. I lost way more than that with that actual person. I lost 6 figures with that person. But that is what it is.
Yeah, man. I guess, disclaimer to everyone: know who you're getting to bed with, right? Like, we
Yeah,
say it
yeah.
multiple
And the more
times. Like,
charismatic, they are, the more you should look into them. For real.
so, all right. So, for anyone interested, we have that on our investor story page. We will link to it in the show notes so you can go and read about it in detail. It's a great read. It's a fascinating story about how things can go wrong, and then just more, Mike, to your credit, just overcoming it. Right, you did
Yeah.
not lose your investors' money. You fought back and got that guy made whole, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
actually really.
He actually didn't lose any money. I took the 10 grand hit. So
Yeah, so you made that guy whole, and just like what you went through on this thing was just insane. So most
yeah,
people would have given up at some point, and here you are, now killing it in direct mail. So,
yeah, thank you.
all right, so let's talk about your operations here. So you picked an out-of-state market. For those who don't know, you're doing just a ton of direct mail.
Mhm.
Um, let's start at square one. Like, how did you pick another market? Like, what went into that decision-making process?
That's a good question. So we wanted a different market because of my experience that I had, and we were just looking for a different market because we wanted to potentially move to another location as well. But we never ended up doing that. I'm still in Chicago. But I went to the Midwest Real Estate Summit and saw Neil Bawa speak. and he has this like Udemy course, free Udemy course on how to pick a market.
It's 2019, right? I was at this one, like
Yeah, yeah,
right
that was a
before
great.
COVID.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that Udemy course I've given out a million times. It was great, and I think he's updated it since. But we looked at all these different markets, and we looked at the markers and everything you need to look at when looking at a market, job growth, economic diversity, landlord friendliness, all of that stuff. And North Carolina hit all the marks. Plus, my partner at the time, he'd gone to college there. So we went down. What I did is we went down with the idea of buying real estate, buying and holding real estate, burring duplexes and single families. And so what I did is I went on Bigger Pockets, and I reached out to people in every primary and secondary market and some tertiary markets in North Carolina, and asked them to meet with me. And so we did a road show. So I drove all around for 4 days. We just met with people in North Carolina to learn more about the locations which they served for whatever real estate, like whether it was a property manager or realtor or whatever it was. And so they showed us around, did all that stuff. We really liked it and picked North Carolina for that reason.
All right, so you pick North Carolina. How do you get it going though, right? It's so hard to get off the ground anywhere. You're not local. You can't really go to the meetups.
Right.
Like how do you just get the momentum?
Yeah.
Going
So
into COVID or during COVID, it might have been too, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So one of my partners actually moved down there at the time, and COVID just happened. Um, but we were trying Facebook ads originally because we were noticing like all the deals that were being sent to us just didn't fit our like buy box at all. And nothing on the MLS was fitting our buy box. So we're like, all right, we need to try to go to direct to seller. Tried Facebook ads, that didn't work so well. And then we just we did a little bit of Drive for Dollars. So I went back down there. We did Drive for Dollars, which is our #1 list to this day. And then we just sent direct mail. I think it was out of Deal Machine at the time. We just sent direct mail. We got a lead from a woman that owned 3 properties. They didn't fit our buy box, but we were like, hey, maybe we should see if it fit somebody else's. We skip traced a bunch of cash buyers on PropStream, reached out to them and said, hey, are you interested in these properties? After we had got it under contract, of course, we made 25 grand on each property, and we're like, wow, we should make this a business. And so we just kept doing direct mail from there and kept going and going. Yeah.
What? Yeah. So lots to unpack. Let's talk about the driving for dollars. So you go
Sure.
down there. How many addresses are you accumulating in this drive for dollars? Right.
Back then, it was probably like 500 to 1,000 when we started. We try to
And what were you doing? Just driving up and down the block?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's easier. It's easier if you're doing it with a partner. So if one of you is driving and one of you is putting the properties into Deal Machine. It's just a
And
way.
and you're just looking for anything that looks like it needs, like, could be distressed.
Correct. Yeah, yeah. Anything that looks like it could be distressed, the gutter hanging down, grass is long, the roof, it needs to be replaced, whatever. Anything that looks distressed. There's like junk cars in the yard or whatever. Yeah, that's how we did it. And now today we have VAs virtually driving for dollars. We try to add 20,000 a quarter now. So it's like we've scaled that.
Wow, that's pure scale. Even let's talk about just the 500 to 1,000, because
Yeah.
manually you're going up, you're driving up and down. Some blocks probably have a couple, but it's taking you a while to get this, right? And then all you have is an address. Then you got to go get all the information.
Yeah. 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 So we use PropStream for that. Actually, we still use PropStream to this day. Everybody that like our peers in the space that do as much as us, they're surprised that we use PropStream, but it works well for us. But yeah, I mean, you can do when you're doing a 500 to 1,000, you can do a lot. Like that was in a weekend. You can, like I said, if you have a driver that's driving with you and you have the phone, you can just put in a ton in like a couple hour period, more than you think.
All right, so you have 500 names, 1,000 names. You scrape the information from PropStream, and then what are you doing? Are you sending them all the same mailer? Like, is it a mailer with is it
Yeah,
Just
so
tactically, what are
originally,
they receiving from you
yeah,
then?
originally, so if you've never done it, I would download Deal Machine. It's a phenomenal app. The user experience and interface is really easy. And you can send direct mail right out of that. In the beginning, that's all I would do is send direct mail out of Deal Machine. And they have like a unique mailer where they send an actual picture of the property so it catches the attention of the seller. Because they see a picture, a picture of their house on the mailer. And then it's got your phone number on it, all that stuff, your email, and then they'll reach out to you from there. We now to this day, we send an offer letter that is our best performing letter.
Okay, so what does that look like?
We send
How legit is it? Because obviously you haven't seen the place.
Yeah, so it's based off of the prop stream value. So we have like an algorithm that will pull the prop stream value, and then it'll pull like 80% of the prop stream value, and we'll send out that amount. So it's like a Zillow estimate or a Zestimate, essentially, but in prop stream. So it'll pull that value. It's a 2-page letter. The first page will speak to whoever the avatar of the seller is. So say it's a absentee and it's a landlord. Most likely we'll say things like verbiage around being a landlord. And so we'll send a letter to them with our acquisition specialists, our main acquisition specialist picture and signature on it. And it'll say, hey, this could be high, could be low, but based off the information that we have, this is our offer. And so we get a lot of calls from that. And then on the second page, we have our Google reviews, either our Google reviews on it, that are also from avatars of that seller. So if it's an absentee, again, it's going to be somebody that's probably a review from an absentee, and the verbiage in the review will substantiate that. And then the other one, it varies. The other one is pictures of properties that we bought that are close to in proximity to the house that we're trying to buy.
How many different avatars do you guys have?
Mainly, so not many, to be honest with you. Absentee hits really hard for us. We love absentee and we love drive for dollars. So like our main avatar is usually like 60-year-old tired landlord or just somebody who's got a dilapidated house.
How close is the pricing to what your estimates are coming from PropStream? Like, how far off are you in general, or what do you
I don't
guys?
have an exact number for that, but let's say it's 200. We're probably coming in at 140 typically.
That's awesome, because I imagine that I know the intent is just to get people to call you, right? No matter
Right.
what.
Yeah, it's the
But
lead magnet.
I'm always curious then seeing how far off that might be.
Yeah,
Walk me
no,
through
I
this
mean, and
though.
again, the key sentence is could be high, could be low, but based off of the information that we have available to us, this is our offer. Because if you don't do that, you're going to get a lot of very angry people. And you're pigeonholing yourself big time. So we get a lot of times people will call us and be like, "Hey, thanks for the offer. This is the most professional letter that we've ever gotten." We've literally gotten people that tell us, "I get 10 letters a week or whatever it is. I've never called anybody, but I called you guys because of how professional your letter is. But you guys are high on the price. I know you guys aren't going to be able to get this for me." Like, okay, thanks for letting us know. And then we just go through our process.
Yeah, what if walk us through like, you say the letter says 200.
Mm-hmm.
You call up and the guy's like, "Hey, that sounds great." In reality, it's worth 160 or something.
Yeah.
Like, how to, just talk through the actual dialogues. It's a tough conversation.
Yeah. So what we do when it comes into our system, our acquisition specialist will take the call. Originally, it was me and my partner, but now we have 4 acquisition specialists. So and a lead manager. One of our acquisition specialists or lead manager will take the call. They'll talk to them about they'll set the stage. So they'll talk to the seller about how we work, and then they'll try to dig into the motivation on why they're looking to sell, and try to get an understanding of the condition of the house. And then they'll set up an appointment for our inspector. So we've got a full-time inspector. We call him an inspector, but he just goes and takes pictures of the house and video of the house. And he's also really good at building rapport as well. So he's a good extension of our brand. Then he'll take pictures of the house, video of the house, and then he'll upload it to Google Drive. our asset manager will underwrite the deal, and then our acquisition specialist that originally spoke to them will call and have an offer call. And so based off of typically off of the pictures and the video, it's pretty easy to like have the conversation about like, okay, it's not going to be 200, right? So, because typically it's pretty dilapidated, and buyers are liars, sellers are worse. So they usually they aren't giving you the truth.
What metrics do you guys measure by as being success? Like you sent out X amount and you got X amount of calls back. Like how do you guys
Usually,
gauge that?
yeah, so we're usually like we do know those numbers, but our return on ad spend is like key. Like that's we're always looking to get a good return on ad spend. For us, for most of the year, we're like eight times, so $8 for every dollar we put in. But fourth quarter was like 6, which is fine. And as we scale, our return on ad spend is gonna go lower. But for 2024, it's probably going to be around 6.
So
And
how big is the team now?
our lead to contract ratio, we like to keep at around, we like to be at like 8 to 10%.
What do you call, how do you qualify a lead? Or what's your criteria for this is a lead versus it's just like a tire kicker?
Even the tire kickers will call a lead. If they don't call and ask to be taken off the list, or the house is already sold or something like that, that will move to dead. But otherwise, we think most things can be worked.
Love it.
Like the optimism.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned asset manager, you've mentioned the inspector, bunch of acquisition guys. How big is the team now? Like what is the current state of the team?
Yeah, so there's 13 of us, I believe. So we have 4 acquisition specialists. We have 1 asset manager. He does a lot of the underwriting and some of the TC. We have 2 disposition specialists. We've got did I say inspector? Yeah. And then we have a growth. We just brought on a chief growth officer. He's building out our tech stack. And then my partner and myself. I'm probably missing a couple people there.
I mean, that's a legit sized team. I want to walk backwards here. Just, it's when it's you and one other guy picking up the phone, right? Like, how
Yeah.
did we get to this point? Because that's what our listeners, that all sounds great. They're like, how do I get
Our
there?
first key
Right?
hire was huge for us. So we had a phenomenal first hire. He was a guy that the one thing I'm good at is hiring, and I never knew it until like I started this company. I'm good at hiring and I'm good at culture, keeping people, and finding good people. So there was a guy that reached out to us he was a wholesaler or he worked for a wholesaler in Washington, and his wife was going to Duke for her PhD, and they were moving out to Durham. And he just reached out to me on LinkedIn, courted him for a little bit, overpaid for him. So glad I did. Because almost everything we do today is built off of a foundation that he helped us build. So like the mailer that they did out there, we're using, I mean, like a version of it, our own version of it, like those types of things. He was our first salesperson that just like really helped us get to the point that we could hire somebody else, and we could hire Dispo, and we could continue to hire people and bring people aboard.
Man, so, and then talk to us about like, are you financing this yourself, right? Did you go out and get capital, or are you saying, hey, like we think this is going to work? Like how,
I mean,
like just the financial side of scaling.
We each put in $3,000, and then that's
it.
Yeah, this is $3,000. Yeah. Yeah.
Man, during this 1 hour recording, I probably have a $3,000 change order somewhere. Like,
yeah. And the cool thing is we don't have to fund the AB side of the transaction. So the BC, like we don't fund the AB at all. It's pass through.
Well, there's a lot of people listening out there that say, "Oh man, I'm gonna go run and do this." So like, all I gotta do is put $3,000 in. Usually, the offset of limited capital borrowed or invested out of pocket comes with manual or time or intensity of just kind of what you have to put in.
Yeah.
How is talks about that?
Yeah. I will say I was completely full time. So I was in a position that, again, I wasn't doing anything. I was like trying to figure out what I was going to do next. And I was in a position where I could work on it full time. My business partner, I had two business partners at the time. We have since bought one of them out. But my business partner, he was a project manager for a huge commercial building company. And honestly, he didn't work that much. So he was almost able to put full-time effort into the company as well. So yeah, like you said, it took a lot of sweat equity for sure.
I don't know about you, Tom. It's died down less, but or it has died down. Like all these people, like, yeah, no, I'm to get on my full time job. I'm going to start doing wholesaling. I'm going to start to do my first flip. I'm going to do wholesaling, get a bunch of stuff, so I can start buying stuff. And they kind of look at it as like a moonlighting opportunity. And I've never seen that to be the right way to look at it.
No, right? Like it's a full-time grind, right? Like
Yeah, it's speed to lead, guys. You can't like if they're not if you can't answer their call and you don't get back to them within 2 minutes, they're calling someone else. Whether especially if mail, it's a little bit better. Like as long as we call like same day or like within a few hours, that's great. But if then you're moving forward and investing in like PPC or pay per lead, a lot of new guys will do pay per lead right out of the gates, which is like $300 a lead or 275 or whatever it is. If you literally don't call that lead back in 2 minutes, I forget the numbers, but your chances of actually getting a hold of that person are diminished by like 90% or something. Because all they're doing is they're calling the next person. Because they're online searching. Yes, they're highly motivated. They're distressed most likely. But they're filling out a form and then they're going to the next form. And whoever calls them back first is gonna win.
Well, the other thing I feel in taking something like this on or investing into a project like this is you have to allow yourself so many reps. Like you have to get on the call with 50 people before you even know like what the right thing is to say. And that to get those 50 people to call you, you have to send X amount. So I always kind of tell people to kind of back into it. But like I mentioned your first callback, the first one was probably nervous as all hell versus your 50th. So like a lot of people I see a lot of people go out like after like three, like I got 3 calls, I didn't get anything, so I'm not doing it anymore. Yeah, man.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, we're still tweaking it to this day too.
A good person will always, yeah.
Yeah. So we're always innovating whatever we're doing. But yeah, I've introduced a lot of people to wholesaling and they realize that it's not as easy as it seems.
man, did you have that giving up moment, right? Like, did you after a month into it, 3 months, 6 months, was that time where it's like, dude, I don't see the path.
No, no. With
Well,
my
you
other,
did cash for keys for an entire building, dude. Like I like you get
It's
you
a
get grit, man. After
Chicago
going
war
through-
veteran here.
yeah, right. Well, I honestly have a phenomenal partner. It was the first time I've ever had a partner that I absolutely love. Like we complement each other super, super well. If you do the predictive index, I'm a maverick, so I'm out there like making things happen. My follow through is not awesome. But my business partner is I forget what he is, but it's the opposite of me. He's a guardian. He's the opposite of me. He's like got a lot of follow through, great attention to detail. And he's super open-minded.
So your highest day, lowest D. That's I love that you guys do the predictive index. It's funny. A lot of wholesalers actually, the guys that actually turn into a full operation, they utilize predictive index. We had Jeff on here.
Yeah, so Jeff and I are in the
From
same
Kendall.
mastermind.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh, so is that collective genius?
Correct.
All right, so let's hit on that. Before going there, though, I want some data points. So you mentioned you're adding 20,000 leads through driving for dollars a quarter.
Correct.
How many, like, what are you sending out? Whether it's weekly, monthly, like how much mail is being sent out from your company?
Yeah, so we send out 13,000 pieces a week. And we're growing. We're growing that. Yeah. So we actually hired a chief growth officer. His background is with a fintech company, Avant, here in Chicago.
Yeah.
He was their product manager and he was in charge of their direct mail and a lot of their marketing. They would send out millions of pieces a month. And he was able to, like, what his job was to do that, develop the strategy, and then measure the data that came back. And so we're really putting a lot of our resources into this by hiring him and upgrading our tech stack and those types of things, so that we can just get even better at direct mail piece.
Got it. I don't know anything about Avant. I just know they're in the merchandise mart. I used to see the sign all the time.
The what?
They're in
Oh
the
yeah,
merchandise mart. Yeah,
yeah.
I used to see the sign
They
all the
offer
time.
credit cards to like middle credit score people.
Got it. All right. So talk to us about some of the bumps on scaling. If someone's looking to do what you did, right? The guys out here is saying, you know what? I've been looking to do direct mail. I got some money. I have some time. I'm gonna go replicate what Mike did. You know, what's some of the scaling I don't know, gotchas or bewares that you would share here?
Yeah, there's a lot. People, first of all, people, if they're not a culture fit, like have your core values and don't break them. And sometimes you do based off of like somebody that's like super good at interviewing, even though they might not hit one of the core values that you kind of negotiate with yourself and say, yeah, actually they do hit the core value here. Like you kind of lie to yourself.
Justify
You
it.
bring them on every time. I've done that. It hasn't worked out, which is only 2 times. But it hurt us in a big way with one of the guys. It was our dispo guy. And he actually was, we locked up a contract. He said he couldn't sell it. He said, but he was interested in it. He's like, I'll pay a 20 grand spread. He told us a week later after he closed, he's like, hey, just want to let you know, I actually sold it for this much. And it was 100 grand spread.
Oh,
So he essentially stole 100 grand from us. And so that's one of the guys that I was just like kind of lied to myself about the core values situation. So there, like people's everything.
Well,
And then the other thing,
I
go ahead.
want to dive deeper in that because you said that the hiring, the people, the culture part, like you said that like so easily, like that's like that beats the hell out of people that own businesses. That those things that you just easily said, like I got this.
Yeah.
Talk to us about core values. Like, what are your guys' core values, and kind of where how you take that into your this conversation you're talking about bringing the right people on.
Yeah, so our core values are have grit, be an entrepreneur, win as a team, make it enjoyable, commit to excellence, and those are our core values, and those are incredibly important. Oh, do the right thing. I missed that one. That's what, and so did the guy that stole 100,000 from us. Missed that one too.
You're still justifying it. I love it.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, that is the most important one. I talk about that. Yeah, man. I mean, it's so freaking important to have your core values. You have to live and breathe by those. You have to operate by those. You have to hire and fire based off of core values. And we do all this, but we are so obsessive about the US model, the entrepreneur's operating system model. I mean, we have implemented it so well. I think that's one of our biggest strengths. I mean, I probably spent 20 hours developing our core values. And that's how I knew I had the right partner, because he was willing to do it with me. Because I had businesses before this that were successful from a revenue perspective, but were absolute, I don't know if you can swear on here, but were absolute like
go for it.
shit shows,
Beep.
companies to operate. And I never wanted that again. And my partner was a wild man that I had. He was just like, I never knew what he was doing. He would never wanted, like, he was not intentional. He just wanted to just go out and make things happen, and that's it, no matter how he did it. And so in this business that I'm in now, I wanted to make sure that we were as intentional as possible. We did the EOS system. We still do the EOS system. We do our weekly L10s. We meet every single week. We do our quarterlies. We do our annuals. And that's how we got to this point.
How does the core values play into partners? Like, I think that's important too, that not just employees. Like, you already said that you have a good yin and yang with your partners, and that's huge. But I think you just said the core values. Like, how should people look at their own core value? Because if someone's looking to partner up, a lot of times these partnerships, just like, hey, having a beer is like, yeah, you do this, I'll do this, and we'll do this,
Yeah,
and we'll
you
get out of
see
our full-time
that
job.
way too often. Way too often.
It's very casual.
Yes.
And how would you advise people, like, when it comes to that, looking kind of hindsight of your career?
Oh man, that is a great question. And you clearly have you've had partners before if you've asked this question. But yeah, it's extremely important. I see people way too casual about starting partnerships, and it typically ends poorly. Rarely do partnerships work out, and it's because they don't vet each other. They don't do projects with each other up front to see how each other work. That's super important. I mean, if I were starting a business with someone, I would do a project with them first to see if you worked well together, to see how they work, to see what they do, what they say they're going to do, and then so I can gauge how I can gauge their core values to make sure that our core values line up with each other's. Um, and that's if they don't, and if they don't, if like one of those experiments don't pass, don't move forward.
I love it.
What's in the operation? What's the bottleneck right now? Like, is the hardest part, is it acquisitions? Is it, the operation side of things of just keeping that seller on board? Is it disposition? Like, where would you say is the
Dispositions is pretty
bottleneck?
easy. We've been really good about building our list. So dispositions, anytime we get a deal, is really easy. Acquisitions is always difficult. That's you asked me about like the hurt or the obstacles or something. It's the business is a lot has a lot of ups and downs. I think it's as consistent as we can possibly be at this stage of our business, but it's still, I mean, we still go through Q4 where it feels like the sky's falling because the contracts have dropped off like by 60%. But you just kind of have to keep a level head, know that your systems are good, know that we're following the right process, and know that the contracts will come. During those times, you really have to raise your floor. So I think there's a saying, you don't fall to the level of your goal, or you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. We really, really believe that. We have great systems and processes in place. And anytime we really focus on raising those systems and being strategic, that's an absolute dominant strategy. We try to deploy dominant strategies in every area of our business.
But anyone with good systems will tell you though, it's not a one and done thing. Like I imagine using EOS, you guys are updating your systems, you're figuring out what doesn't
Yeah.
work and all that. So I always like to, a lot of people are like, hey, can I borrow yours? And not everyone's systems work within your own culture either, because I think systems bounce off of culture and different styles, even if it's the same industry.
Oh yeah, 100%. Because we'll go to a place like Collective Genius, and you see all these guys. I mean, there's guys making $5 million a month in revenue, wholesaling. And then you see their systems and like, oh, those systems are awesome. I'm going to implement those in my business. They don't work in our business. Like there's certain things that don't work in our business, and we have to tailor it to ourselves. And we learned that pretty quickly. I mean, we had a coach that was crushing it. He had a wholesale business in the Southeast, and the things that he was doing, we had to mold for ourselves and our business and our culture because they wouldn't work for us. And you're absolutely right. We're constantly innovating. We're constantly updating. Those EOS meetings are so important to do that. And once you have something on paper, you can have your SOPs and all that, right? You can write them down, but you never look at them again. That's not going to be useful, right? And so you have to constantly be looking them over with each other, updating them, innovating, doing those things.
Love it.
Good
For
stuff.
uh for conversation's sake, Tom is an adventurer and I'm an adapter. So we're both highest A's. So
Oh
we
yeah.
but we recognize in ourselves. So for me and him to do whatever we do together, we need someone else to help us really lay it out and get it going, because our D's are both kind of it's there. It works for when we need to get it done, but we can't be consistently detailed, I think, across the board
Yeah.
for long periods of time.
It's
So
tough. It's so tough for us. Yeah, gotta be self-aware.
yeah, no, it's huge.
Mark, what does that mean that I'm an adventurer? What does it mean that I'm an adventurer?
Venture.
You venturer, not adventurer, if I misspoke on that.
Adventurer sounds way cooler.
Yeah, no, venture. Yeah. No, it's just the highest A, like you always do want to win. You have the drive. And you would your lowest C, which does make you you don't want to do the same thing over and over again. That you do struggle with that. And your D is just kind of midline. So you're not horrible on details, but you're kind of midline. And my A, B, C, D goes like that. So like I could kind of adapt to anything that's kind of going on. I could do anything consistently well for a short time, but I could also change if I need to tomorrow. So
Right.
Got it. All right. So we've talked about, you've mentioned Collective Genius a couple times now. And our friends from Kendall Partners, I was trying to look up the episode of where he was, and we'll link to it in the show notes.
Yeah.
But I know they've done, 1,000 homes here in Chicago that they've dispositioned in the Western Burbs. They're part of the group. What made you look at Collective Genius? Like, how did you find it? Why did you invest? And then I want you to talk about that
Yeah.
experience as well.
I mean, you guys know who Fernando introduced me. You guys know Fernando to self-storage, right?
Yeah,
We've
we've
had
had
him on
him
the
on
show
as
too.
well. The
Yeah,
not the
yeah,
lead,
yes.
yeah.
So he's not in it anymore because he went the self-storage route, obviously crushing it there. Great guy. He actually introduced us to Collective Genius. And so we started off in the select group because in order to get into Premier, you have to be doing over 100 deals a year. So when we started, obviously we weren't doing 100 deals a year. I think you have to be doing like at least 20 to 50 or something. I don't know what it was. But then we've graduated since then to the Premier, the top level, with like Steve Trang, also like the owner of New Western. There's some huge players in that group, and it's been priceless.
That's awesome. We had
So
Jeff on episode 253. He was on recently. So,
Jeff was
and
253. Fernando for self storage was 86.
and we dove into self storage. That's probably our only episode on self storage. So anyone should check that out.
Yeah,
It,
he's great.
so what, I just, can you give some tactical things you've learned from there, right? Like it sounds great, but like what is it, just being around people who have done this and being able to, borrow ideas and bounce ideas off of them? Like what is the main benefit you're getting out of it?
Yeah, that's one thing. That is huge. You get to tactically, I mean, you get to see what everybody's doing from a marketing perspective, see what the returns are, so you can base, what you can base your metrics off of theirs. See like what industry averages are and stuff like that. The Facebook group is like extremely valuable. So anytime you have a question about something, just ask it into the group. There's multiple questions and answers a day. You can get an answer within 5 minutes from a guy that's operating extremely well. And then just from a leadership perspective, there's a bunch of leaders in there, impressive leaders, better leaders than myself, that have taught me different ways of being in meetings, meeting cadences, doing things like that to be a better leader, have made a huge impact on our business and myself.
That's good stuff. So you see continuing down that path moving forward. Like you're seeing the
Thousand,
value in there.
1,000%, 1,000%. I wouldn't do this business without it. And you get to present every once in a while, so it's like you grow as a person too. So you present. They give an award for the best presentation that gave the most value. I actually won a couple of CGs ago, which felt great. So you grow there too, public speaking wise, and it's just a couple of my best friends are from there. And I talk to at least one CG member a day, probably.
Well, I think it's crazy as we get older, or you change, you become a different leader, a different person from you are. You start finding these new groups, and those people start becoming like your the people that you could be friends with and bond with. You might have your drinking buddies from high school that you can laugh with
Yeah.
the whole times, but these become the people that become your core and actually become the influences of your next stages of your life. So I recognize that too. A lot of my circles. Um, just a short time we're talking here, you clearly come off as someone that is all about growth and getting yourself to the next level, so you can kind of get everyone else to the next level. How much time, effort, deliberate kind of focus are you spending on personal growth? The whole leadership word, like what leadership means to me today versus what I thought it meant 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It's not even close to the same definition. Like talk to us about kind of the growth trajectory you've been on.
I mean, man, I spend most of the day studying and reading, which sounds crazy. So
And you say
like,
that with a huge smile, so you enjoy it.
well, because before this business and before like I guess in years before and when I was running my other businesses, success looked like being busy, like super busy, doing tactics, being in the business. And if I would sit down and I would read a book or something, or I would watch a video or whatever, I would be really hard on myself and be like, what are you doing? You're not moving forward. You're not doing a tactic that's going to make a sale, like whatever. And now I've totally changed my mindset. I spend most of the time reading and studying, and trying to be the best leader that I possibly can be. Trying to innovate within the business, figure out how to improve our office offers, and our business in general. And it's made a huge impact.
How does this
Man,
affect your personal life? Like, how does everything you're doing on the business side tie into your personal side?
Well, you said it a minute ago. I mean, my friend group has totally changed. I'm a better dad. I'm a better husband. I'm more patient. People come to me for, guidance. I'm noticing that a lot more. People notice, like verbally, will notice that I've changed. I don't drink. I don't drink anymore. But like once a year, maybe. I used to quite a bit. My health, I lost 20 pounds in the last year. Just a lot. I mean, my life has totally changed.
It's awesome.
congrats, man. Yeah, that's great
Congrats.
stuff. What's the next 3 years for this company now? What's the
Yeah.
scaling goals? What are your BHOGs? What's going on here?
Yeah, so this year, 2024, we hope to do 5 million in spread, so revenue, 5 million in revenue. I think we'll be able to do that. And then I want to start, well, we want to start growing our portfolio more because we haven't really concentrated that much on that. And I want to add $1 million a year personally to my portfolio. Because by the time I'm 60, I want to have $24 million saved, or in equity. And I also want to start buying businesses that are kind of vertically integrated with the wholesale company. So I want to I'm definitely going to start studying and being able to analyze businesses that I could potentially purchase in order to just kind of build a portfolio of businesses within the space.
What's an example of a business? Like,
It could totally change, but like right now I'm thinking of like HVAC companies, something along like home services types of companies, are something that I'm interested in. They could be a feeder into our wholesale company and into our portfolio and things like that. Roofing companies, stuff like that. Or a direct mail as a service. We're also thinking about doing that because I get asked like we literally have a call a week with people asking us how to do direct mail successfully. And we've tested it out in a few different markets and it's hit really well. So we're thinking about potentially doing that, but we don't want to take ourselves off the path we're on yet.
Awesome.
exciting stuff. So, Mark, anything else? Are you good to wrap here?
That's it. I'm ready to wrap. Mike, you ready for our wrap questions?
Okay, yeah, let's go.
All right. What's your competitive advantage? How have you been able to do all this while so many other people wish they could?
I think just like you said a couple minutes ago, just working on myself, studying, and always trying to be the market leader. So I try to look at what the market trends are, what the standards are in the market. I want to be just marginally better there.
All right. What is one piece of advice you would tell someone that is yet to buy their first property?
One piece of advice that I would tell someone that is yet to buy. One piece of advice would be to understand how to underwrite a deal. You make money on the buy.
Love it. What do you do for fun?
I spend time with my family, and I like to study and I like to run my business, to be honest.
That's good. All good stuff. All right. Give us either a good book, podcast, or self-development activity that you would recommend to our listeners.
Yeah, I would just recommend Traction. If you're going to start a business, you have to, you heard me talk about it earlier. I would start it with Traction. That you run the Entrepreneur's Operating System, EOS. You make it, it's a dominant strategy. You are less likely to fail if you follow the operating system in that book.
Yep. Been doing it since 2017. So
I'll
I'll
say
echo
Mark's a
that.
disciple of that.
Nice.
We had them come out and they actually made a video of us.
Oh, that's great.
We run on EOS, so we were on their site. Besides yourself, name one person in the Chicago network that you'd highly recommend to other investors that listen to our show.
Yeah, sure. I mean, Fernando's great. He's very interesting. I'm gonna give him a shout out for if you're interested in self-storage. He's always interested in helping people. Fernando Angelucci. I don't know his contact information. You guys might, but he's always awesome, and he's the one that introduced me to CG.
Yep, we got it. We'll link to in the show notes. So, Mike, thanks so much. You provide a ton of value to our listeners. How can they learn more about you? Is there any way they can provide value to you?
Yeah, no, I love talking with people and understanding what people are interested in. And anytime I can explain what I do to somebody else or do to somebody else, I get better. And I kind of it helps me shine a light on things that I might be able to improve. So reach out to me. My email is mike@venture-stack.com. Again, it's mike@venture-stack.com. I'm also on LinkedIn, Mike Kehoe.
All right, we'll link to all that in the show notes. Mark, we got a Chicago fact. Who are we playing for?
All right, we're playing for Craig Stevens. Isn't that somebody famous? That sounds like a famous name, but we're playing for Craig Stevens out of looks like Libertyville. And today's sponsor is Straight Up Chicago Investor Brokerage. Craig, if myself or Mike get this question right, you get $50 gift card brought to you by Straight Up Chicago.
All right, I don't even know if I'm going to give you options on this one. I think you got it. So,
Okay.
I recently watched Ferris Bueller, so I was like, you know what? Let's see if Mark's watched it recently. So, what song does Ferris lip sing and dance to during the parade scene in downtown Chicago?
Oh,
You got this, Mark.
I can picture him dancing.
I know.
If not, Mike will bail you out. You got 5 seconds.
No, I don't know if I will.
Multiple choice.
Fine. I'll make up multiple choice for you. Is it Pretty Woman, Twist and Shout?
Twist and shout.
Yeah, there you go. Just need to hear it
Got it.
once.
Nice
It was
try.
on the tip of my tongue, man. All right, Craig. Tom bailed you out there by giving me multiple choice, and we got twist and
Damn
shout.
it, we were the sponsor. We're just shelling out money now.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Got to make these things harder.
Straight Up Chicago Brokerage Team. So if you're looking for a property here in 2024, grow your portfolio, reach out to us. So, Mike, awesome episode, man. Thanks for coming on the show and really kind of going deep and getting a little vulnerable even as well. So it was awesome. Tom, thank you as always. Listeners, we are lining up our guests for the spring season here. So we got a bunch of episodes filmed in 2024 and looking for awesome guests. If you know anybody, or if you think you could be a good guest that could add value to our listeners, remember, our goal is to bring people on here that could give guests tactical advice on personal growth, running operation, anything that they could do to be a better real estate investor here in Chicago. So if you have anything or you want anything, reach out, straightupchicagoinvestor.com, or you can find us on Bigger Pockets, Facebook group, anywhere. So Mike, thanks again. Tom, thanks as always. And listeners, we'll see you next week.
Thanks,
Thanks
guys.
all.